Thank you.
Thank you, Zawadi. Good morning, everyone. My name is Joshua Kiama. I'm 12 years of age. I study at Babadogo Primary School, and I'm in class 7. My question goes to the UNICEF, and my question is, the government is giving cash, I'm talking about climate change, and under climate change, there is drought in Kenya into the north and northeast part of Kenya. So my question is, the government is giving cash transfer to its people, and a place like Turkana, there is drought. A child must go to school to learn, and a school is like 15 kilometers. So the child must walk up to school so that he or she can get to learn. The same case, this cash transfer, they need food to eat. For example, a family is 15 kilometers to the market. I saw on TV a child who cannot walk, and the child is the one to be sent to buy the cooking materials. So my question is to provide, why are you cash transfer and they are weak and they cannot go to walk up to the market? So I am suggesting to give food and cash transfer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Don't you think these children are intelligent? So maybe we should give our guests a chance to answer the questions.
This time I'll transfer the questions. So I'll ask UNICEF, and then my colleague, Madam Bore, and Mr. Jackson.
Yeah, the one on the bullying. Thanks a lot, Prime Cabinet Secretary. Thank you, Mariam, for the question. The Prime Cabinet Secretary just said that violence is not acceptable. It's not tolerated. It's a crime. Violence against children, no matter who commits the act of violence. So when it comes to violence, even children committing violence on other children is not acceptable. Yeah? Children need to be protected from violence, no matter who commits them. So when it comes to online violence, including cyberbullying, it's something of concern to UNICEF and of concern to the government as well. For probably commit violence against others, or people don't use internet to commit crime, including a sexual or related crime against children. So that's one. Two, how do we address it? We need to address this by raising awareness and sensitizing everyone. So it starts with you children, so that you know how to your peers. So sensitization is very important so that everyone knows that those acts are not accepted. Working with schools. Schools are very important platforms so that such awareness is created, so that you read to every single child that doing bullying against another child is not good, because it affects the morale, and as you said, can even lead to act like suicide, which is very serious. But also working with children officers. We are lucky that the government has children officers in different sub-counties. Of course, they are working to ensure that the number increases. But children officers are very important. If you recall, during COVID, is a child officer from Machakos who raised the alarm about teenage pregnancies. So children officers of government are very, very important. The other actors are NGOs. We have a lot of NGOs working in the child protection area, and we need to ensure that all the actors work together. But of course, your parents are also critical. They are the ones who should advise children in terms of how do you use the internet for the goodness of yourself rather than using the internet against others. That's what I can say in terms of preventing and addressing bullying, including cyberbullying. Thank you.
Thank you, Isaac. You asked a question on CBC, and you asked why government is not able to buy the materials that you have in CBC, that you use in CBC. Let me say, the government has done a task force to be able to look at the issues of CBC. It's currently ongoing. Views are being given to the committee on CBC. If there are advice, if there are views that you have, even as children, you're free to give to that committee. Your teachers, too, have a chance to give their views to that committee. Your teachers, too, have a chance to give views to that committee. Once the committee will finish the investigations, as they go across counties in the country, the views will be taken, they'll be analyzed, and they'll be taken to the President and the Cabinet Secretary of Education. So those views that you've given, you're asking why government cannot give, I'm sure there'll be an answer. And I'm sure we also want you to use the available materials around your homes, around your community, so that we don't make them expensive. We will try as much as possible to ensure that the materials that you use are not the very expensive one that your parents that will be expensive for your parents to buy. So we will take in those views and ensure that you're comfortable, and CBC will continue for your education. Thank you.
And so I want to talk to my friend, Jonathan. Asante sana kwa swali lako. It was a really, really good question, and I think you should come and work for us at the United Nations, because you already are showing an understanding of these issues well beyond your years. You made two really great points. The first is that you pointed out that this drought that is hurting so many children in Kenya is directly related to the climate emergency. And His Excellency President Ruto was just in Egypt at the huge climate conference that we call COP last week, making that same point and saying that the wasteful practices of the world, burning fossil fuels, making the planet warmer, is killing children. So thank you for reminding us of that. And the second point is then, as we respond to that emergency, you're also right, and this is something we think about a lot in the UN and with the government. You always need many different kinds of help. You need cash, you need food, you need healthcare, you need education, you need shelter, you need protection. You need even to look after the livestock, the cows and the camels and the goats. Why do we mostly prefer cash? We mostly prefer to do cash because it's immediate. I can send it from this thing and it arrives right at the far end. We know who it goes to, right down to that person. We don't have to worry that it goes somewhere else. We know that it's cheaper. We don't have to pay for trucks to carry it. But most of all, it stimulates the local economy. If you've got money, you can buy things, and so then food and other supplies come into the community. The families can use the money to buy whatever they need. Some of them need food, some of them need to pay school fees, some of them need to pay medical care. So it's flexible, and finally it's more dignified. But it isn't everything, and you're absolutely right. Sometimes you have to do food, and we still do. So what we try to do is a mixed response, where we try to fine-tune it and give food to those who need food, cash to those who can use cash. But, and I'll finish here, we're not able to do enough. The government has been working very hard since the start of this drought and has done a lot, and so have the United Nations and our international friends. But we're only able to do about half of what we need, and that means that the other half of children, their situation is getting worse and worse and worse. And so actually on Monday, the Deputy President and I and a big delegation will be flying to northern Kenya to try and put more attention on this and say we need more. We need more of everything. We need more money, we need more food, we need more medical supplies, because this drought, as you said, the climate change means it's not going to go away. It's getting worse. So thank you so much for reminding us of that and reminding us of what we need to do. Asante.
Another round of applause for the guests for responding to the questions and the challenges that the children are actually going through. Thank you so much. I think we really need like a town hall whereby we can have leaders like you and children, just children, to be able to ask all the questions that they have. And I am so proud that we have organizations for children here, like Mtoto News, we have Watoto Watch, who can be able to plan a forum like this for children. Isn't that a good thing? Isn't that a good thing? A round of applause, a round of applause. And also, I've also heard about the question on the CBC. There was also maybe like a suggestion to you, Prime Cabinet Secretary, if we could have children maybe also in the task force so that they can be able to, because this is our system. This is a competence-based curriculum for the children. And if we can have children in the task force, it can be a really good idea because we are the ones who are going through the system. You guys had finished your system. It was the 926, ama ilikuwa gani? Yeah, so that's just a suggestion from the children. Maybe you can try and consider that. Yeah, thank you so much. So at this point in time, we have finished the children's session. I would love to introduce the UN Resident Coordinator, Dr. Stephen Jackson. A round of applause as he comes to the stage. A round of applause. A round of applause.
This one work? Or this one's better. Very good. We'll get rid of that. I think that fixed it. That fixed it. Mheshimiwa Waziri Kiongozi Musalia Mudavadi, Waziri, Waheshimiwa, viongozi, marafiki, viongozi wa watoto wetu, Agnes, Kennedy, Zawadi, Lavender, na Omar, and many others. Na watoto wetu. Hamjambo. Hamjambo tena. I'm almost embarrassed to be speaking after those amazing questions. I really think we should probably just give the rest of the morning to hearing more from these incredible child leaders that we have amongst us with such insight into the problems and the challenges, but also the opportunities facing them. Hongera sana. Hongera sana, really. So let me try and be quite quick. We come together on World Children's Day, adults and children, because we want to highlight some of the critical issues in front of you as kids, but the opportunities. And we want to renew our promise as adults to support you, Kenya's children and young people, to become advocates for your own rights. And my goodness, you're already showing that. So impressive, because you are the ones who can fight for your rights. But we're here to help. At UN Kenya, we fight every day, everywhere, for the rights of every child. And to all our work, we bring what we call a leave no one behind approach. So what does that mean, leave no one behind? I almost feel like asking watoto wetu, what does leave no one behind mean? I remember when I was a kid, I was a pretty small kid, I'm not a very large adult, and I used to get left behind quite a bit, actually, on the playground, sometimes in school. So Leave No One Behind is about bringing every child forward, giving every child opportunity. You and I were talking just before we started. We had the honor of being yesterday, the whole leadership of the United Nations in Kenya. We were received by the Deputy President, and we were talking about and joking about how to translate the phrase, leave no one behind. We spent quite a lot of time trying to work out how to translate it into Swahili, and we ended up with Asiachwe Mtu Nyuma, until we realized that we could just bottom up. Because your government's determination, Mheshimiwa, to pursue bottom-up development is, of course, a pledge and a promise to leave no one behind, and it's a solemn pledge to include everyone in Kenya's success. And when we say everyone, of course, we have to mean Kenya's kids. So it's a pledge to leave no child behind. Hongera Sana, and we in the United Nations, UNICEF, our agency for children, really want to support you in that. Marafiki, this year the theme for World Children's Day is about precisely promoting equality, it's against discrimination, and it's for including every child, regardless of gender, race, religion, disability, sexual orientation, status. Every child everywhere deserves to feel appreciated. Every child everywhere has the right to be included and protected against all forms of discrimination. Now, we were waving this red book that we have on, and many of us have in front of us. That's the New Children's Act. It's an amazing piece of law, and I was encouraging Lavender to have a bit of a read of it. Kids, it describes the obligations, the duties that your parents have towards you. Now, mind you, it also describes the duties that you have towards your parents and your families and your friends. When my kids were younger, they're grown up now, but that Convention on the Rights of the Child that's been mentioned, my kids actually some of the key provisions and stuck it on the bedroom door. And every time my wife and I would try to say something to them, they'd go, "Have you read that? Have a read of that." It's worth having a read. It's worth knowing your rights, because they are protected. They're protected by Madam Justice. And conclusion, though, leaving no young people or children behind, leaving no one living in marginalized parts of Kenya behind. And by the way, you kids can all be part of that too. When we were talking about cyberbullying just a minute ago, Sakina, I think, was it? No, I'm sorry, it was my friend there, was talking about cyberbullying. You can help. You're probably the first ones to notice if a kid in your class is down, is depressed, is blue, is maybe injuring themselves or not eating. You're the frontline monitors of that. You're going to know that way before I will know that or Madam Justice will know that. You're the one that can help. You're the ones that can help leave no child behind. So really want you to help us. All of us here on this platform help you and help your brothers and sisters. It's part of UNICEF's mandate to try to reach some of those hardest to reach children. And that's what Joshua was talking about there. The kids that have to walk 15 kilometers to school every day and have to do so on an empty stomach. I don't think he will from his child. Families where the mum, when there were hard times, the mum would pick a particular kind of banana, I think it was, he said, a branch. But actually it was the trunk, the branch of the tree, and the mother would put it into the pot over the fire and let it simmer. And then the kids would say, "Is it ready yet, Mum?" And the mother would say, "Well, why don't you poke it? See if it's soft." And the kids would poke it and it would still be hard. "Oh, it needs more time to cook." So they poke it again and it's still hard. And eventually the kids would fall asleep by the fire and then wake up the following morning not having eaten. This was the mother's way of trying to hide from the children the fact that she had no food to give them. That's still too much our reality because of climate change. So in the UN, but with your help, we're trying to protect those children really at risk of being left behind. We've had the Educate a Child program through UNICEF that's been working to get hundreds of thousands of kids back to school after COVID, but also in the face of this drought. And we've been working with government to strengthen the education system, to strengthen your schools, to get more of those schools connected to the internet, to work on education reform, the curriculum, many of the things that I think can help. And I really want again to congratulate, through you, Waziri Kiongozi, the new government and its determination to look after all children. So let me finish by calling on all of us. We always say all partners and stakeholders. Well, partners and stakeholders, there's some of us up here, but there's some very important partners and stakeholders sitting wearing blue t-shirts this morning. You're also partners in this. You're the children leaders who can bring the children forward who are at risk of being left behind. So let us all join together. There's a beautiful proverb in Swahili that says, "Ucheshi wa mtoto ni anga la nyumba." The laughter of the child is the light of the house. So let's think for a second about Kenya as that house. And let's bring the laughter of all kids to the fore in this great house that is Kenya. So I want to finish by wishing you a very, very happy World Children's Day. Asanteni.
Thank you so much for that wonderful speech. So right now, I want to introduce my friend, Nairobi Women Representative, Honorable Esther Muthoni Passaris. Please give her a round of applause.
Hi, girlfriend. Miss you. How you doing? Very good. Happy World Children's Day. So you have a day, right? Let's give that a big clap, right? I want to start by welcoming you all to Nairobi County, the Prime Cabinet Secretary, Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, the Cabinet Secretary, Labor and Social Protection, my sister, Honorable Florence Bore, Programs Leader for Human Development in the World Bank, Dr. Anne Bakilana, UNICEF Country Rep, Dr. Jane Lokenga, and UN Resident Coordinator, Dr. Stephen Jackson. Your Swahili is getting there. Ladies and gentlemen, all the partners, Mtoto News, for the good work that you do, good morning. I've just come from Parliament to receive a petition by an organization called Brave. And the petition was to ask for more to protect our children, those who are defiled, those who end up having children, those that need counseling, those that are subjected to drug and social mental abuse. And we received that petition. We're currently looking at the Children's Act in Parliament and the various areas that we need to improve on and work on. But Prime Cabinet Secretary, the biggest challenge we have in Parliament is we can make the laws, but as long as it's a money bill, it will not go forward. So I need us to start looking at money bills that we have no choice but to implement. And the children, the future of tomorrow, and the women and the youth, the vulnerable, marginalized society, the PWDs, we can't put our strains because of debt, because of budget deficit, we can't let that impact the generation that is crying for money to assist them right now. Under the government, National Government Affirmative Action Fund, every woman rep has some money. For Nairobi, we receive 6 million shillings per constituency. And with that money, we have to do so many things. We saved money over the last 3 years so we can give Nairobi its first government-owned, government-run. Nairobi County Government with us, the Safe House, we hope to launch the I'm praying, look at our orphanages. You know, when we're looking at the society that is in need right now, food, cash transfer, I don't want you to leave out the orphanages. A lot of at the population in the orphanage, because that's where they are most vulnerable. Our old people's homes, if we think of cash transfer, we are leaving a whole sector in dire need, citizens out. I want to talk, Cabinet Secretary, about sanitary towels. Sanitary towels are provided by our government for public schools. I have cried, screamed, and asked that we do not discriminate against children that go to community-based schools, against children that go to faith-based schools, because they are the majority. And even some of the private schools that are in the informal settlements. We cannot say that we can control what is in the public sector, in the public schools, so that's all the only children that will get sanitary towels. So when we make our budget, I want us to budget for all children, because it's against our constitution to discriminate, and I feel that we're discriminating. When it comes to comprehensive sex education, we have been denying our children information on comprehensive sex education, which is a necessity. I saw in New Zealand, they had a program where little young girls who got pregnant in school were part of the comprehensive sex education, going with their children to talk to their fellow students to ensure that we end teenage pregnancy. While we know that quite a number of our teenagers, especially during the pandemic, that were impregnated, it was by defilement, we also know that there are some, like the young lady in Bugoma who got triplets, who engage in peer-to-peer sex without realizing what they are doing, and it's because we never allow them the chance to understand good touch, bad touch, when to touch, when not to touch, the risks of being touched. And if we don't start educating our children, the world will educate them. Our children have access to the internet and they learn a lot. So we need to start talking about comprehensive sex education. I know that the biggest issue with our religious sector is that when we have to talk about comprehensive sex education, we have to talk about gender identity. And they feel that we will educate our children on gender identities that they should not know about. But I think that's wearing blinders, because whether we like it or not, we have a society of LGBTQI that lives and grows amongst us. So we cannot say that we don't want to talk about gender identity because we want to avoid talking about LGBTQI. So in that case, we will not teach our children about good touch, bad touch, when to touch and when not to touch, and how to know that something's wrong. Prime Cabinet Secretary, I want to talk to you about a young girl called JMM. JMM was 13 years old when she was raped. She was a young KICC girl. She was raped and she got pregnant. Because she thought she did something wrong, she didn't go and tell her parents. She didn't tell her aunties or her uncles, because she's not open and free to talk about sex, because we don't teach it in school, so that our parents can also be told that we need to talk to our children about it. So JMM got pregnant from the rape. Her friends told her, let's go to this pharmacy down the road, you'll be sorted. At the pharmacy, she was given some tablets. She went back home. The fetus came out a little bit, not entirely. She developed a fever. She went back to the same chemist. Because we don't have abortion guidelines, the pharmacy put some wires up her, tangled her a bit, sent her back home. By the time JMM was running a huge fever. She ended up going to her mom and telling her mom, "Mom, I'm sick, and this is what happened." The mother took her to a level 5 hospital in KICC. The level 5 hospital told JMM's mother, JMM cannot be treated here. Take her to Nairobi. She needs to be in Kenyatta National Hospital. So JMM's mother put her in a taxi, brought her to Nairobi. From the age of 14 all the way to 17, JMM stayed in Kenyatta National Hospital in the HDU unit. Eventually she died from kidney and organ failure. The civil society, together with people of like mind, went to court. And when they went to court, they asked the court to tell us whether it was right for JMM to die, because we could not provide this young girl a safe abortion. And the courts ruled that JMM, when we look at abortion, we say it's the doctors to decide, but without guidelines, the doctors can't decide. They ask for guidelines to come out. The courts awarded JMM's mother 3 million shillings, which up to today has not been paid. The same court said, what is the well-being of the mother? Is it emotional? Is it physical? Is it economical? So the courts ruled that when you're looking at the well-being of the mother, it's all those things. Prime Cabinet Secretary, we cannot allow a 10-year-old girl defiled by her father to give birth, because we are saying we are morally upright as a society. There is nothing moral about that. There is nothing moral about a 10-year-old girl. I will talk to you about another 10-year-old girl who gave birth, and she went home with that child. And because she's 10 years old, she's in an orphanage for abused children, where the parents don't want them. She put her child on the top deck of the bed, and then she stepped out. The child crawled, fell head down, bust its head, and died. 2 wrongs. A child cannot be a mother. A child is a child. Those 200,000 children that got pregnant during the pandemic are becoming mothers, and that is wrong. Prime Cabinet Secretary, I want you to take this close to home. Imagine your granddaughter, who is 10 years old, being defiled by your gardener, getting pregnant. Will she be subjected to having that child because we have to keep to our faith? Or will she be able to procure a safe abortion so that she can continue being a child and given the necessary counseling to grow? There is so much wrong in our country. But most of that wrong is us ourselves condemning our young children. And I don't think that that is right. Mental health is real, and we need to stop it. A child that is defiled and abused should not be forced to have the child. I want to say that the government is coming up with affordable social housing and affordable housing. I hear that the social housing that will be given to the people in the slums will be the 1-bedroom studios, and the affordable housing will be the 2 bedrooms and the 3 bedrooms. I want us to reconsider that. If we're going to put a family in the informal settlement into a social house of 1 bedroom, we are not going to end sexual gender-based violence and defilement of our minors. Children should have their own rooms. Let's follow the UK model, where if a parent has children that are of the age of 5 and above, then they have a 2-bedroom house. If a parent has children that are boys and girls, then they have a 3-bedroom house so that the girls are in one side, the boys are in one side. We can talk so much about the pain and the pain and the pain of our children. And right now, feeding in schools, I think we can encourage the county governments to really start an effective program of feeding our children so that they can be able to learn. Equality and inclusion means listening and taking action, not listening and playing God. Thank you, and God bless you all.
A round of applause, a round of applause, a round of applause for the Women Representative, Nairobi County. That is actually very powerful. It's actually very powerful. Children do go through a lot of challenges, and it's better if we do get the views, we do get the challenges from the children themselves. And the children should be able to tell their own stories. They should be able to tell about the challenges that they themselves are going through. Which is why it's better to engage the children than to just sometimes assume and just come up with the solutions. Thank you so much, our honorable women representative of Nairobi. Asante sana. So at this point in time, allow me to welcome the Children Magistrate, Honorable Lady Justice Kibosia. A round of applause as she comes to the stage. A round of applause.
Thank you. Your Excellency, Prime Cabinet Secretary, Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, Honorable Florence Bore, Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Labor and Social Protection. Allow me to read the remarks of the chairperson of the National Council on the Administration of Justice, Standing Committee on Children Matters, Honorable Teresia Matheka. Today, we get to join hands together with our children and the children from all over the world as they celebrate their childhood, and for us adults who are still children at heart. Children are no longer to be seen and not to be heard. We have made provisions to make their best interest the primary concern in our decision making. Today, as we mark the International Day of the Child, we present ourselves with the golden opportunity to take stock of our commitments as we reflect on the theme for this year, equality and inclusion for children, for every child, Children make up more than 50% of our population. As we get to hear from the children, we must remain focused and conscious of the fact that we have to account on how we breathe life to this theme and make it a reality for every child in our world. They have a right to hold us to account when we come back here next year with a different theme. I stand here on behalf of the National Council on Administration of Justice, Standing Committee on Children Matters. This committee was gazetted by the Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya and the chairperson of the NCAJ, Honorable Lady Justice Martha Koome. The National Council on Administration of Justice is established under the Judicial Service Act to, among other things, ensure that the justice sector works in a coordinated, consultative, effective, and efficient manner to establish court users committees and to develop policies to enhance administration of justice. At her first meeting of the Council, the Honorable Chief Justice established that children matters need to be tabled as the first agenda. This was done through the establishment of the Standing Committee chaired by Honorable Lady Justice Teresia Matheka, and the same is reflective of membership from the justice sector. The committee was tasked with, among others, strengthen the justice sector to meet the needs of children. It is a recognition of a special category of children, children who get in touch with the justice system for whatever reason. The children served in the justice system are children who are victims of crime, child witnesses, children who are in conflict with the law, children who are affected by court proceedings, and also children in civil matters. These are cases of custody, maintenance, and other children we interact with. Our justice system is still evolving to meet the standards of a responsive child justice system. The National Council for Administration of Justice Status Report on Children in the Justice System 2019, presented by the Special Task Force on Children Matters, carries a blueprint of what the committee must do to deliver this commitment through the implementation of the Big 7 agenda, setting out the priority areas to ensure administration of justice for children. The first recommendation was to pass the Children's Bill, and the second was to establish a committee dedicated to monitoring the justice system, focusing on children. Today, we are proud to celebrate the Children Act, number 29 of 2022. I think you've seen it on your desks, the red book. I don't know if it's gone round. We have the Children Act 2022. It was it has come 12 years after the promulgation of the Constitution of Kenya 2010. The children of Kenya now have a law that resonates with the Constitution, and especially Article 53. It is the first piece of legislation that ensured that children from all regions of the country were consulted on its provisions and their expectations. This law has made progressive steps towards equality and inclusion for the child in the justice system. Kenya now has raised the age of criminal responsibility from 8 years to 12 years. Emphasis is now on rehabilitation rather than institutionalization of children. We have measures now like ADR, diversion, plea agreements, mediation, and community involvement, and also family involvement in the welfare of the child. The Act requires the Inspector General to establish child protection units in all police stations and a child police unit. The judiciary is to appoint a registrar for children courts, and the actors are expected to work in sync with each other. The need to resource the implementation of the law is urgent to ensure that children are offered equality and also equal services, and that the human resource capacity is accommodative of their needs. The NCAJ has, through Children Court Users Committees and the NCAJ Standing Committee on Administration of Justice for Children, has institutionalized November as the Service Month for Children Matters. This is to pay homage to this day. In this month, we take stock through all the agencies to clear backlog on children matters, to sensitize the community on child rights, and to engage children who are in the justice system. Honorable Prime Cabinet Secretary, by September this year, there were 3,865 cases of defilement in the system. 53 of those cases were gang defilements, that these cases were reported to the police stations. The highest cases came from Kilifi, followed by Nairobi. Additionally, this is acknowledged that most defilement cases go unreported. What we have as 3,865 cases are those that were reported. 70% of those cases do not get to the justice system. It cannot be gainsaid that what trauma these children go through and also carry into adulthood. We must protect them by putting in place resources needed to prevent these criminal acts from happening, and also to implore that psychosocial support be provided in all child spaces. That includes the justice system, schools, and other spaces where children would require those services. Finally, as we want to thank our stakeholders and all who are for being our compass on the direction we should take to protect your rights. Haki ya mtoto ni jukumu letu sote. Happy World Children's Day. Asante sana.
Asante sana. Next, I want to invite Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Labor and Social Protection, Honorable Florence Bore. Please give her a round of applause.
Thank you. Children, God is good. Thank you. Honorable Wycliffe Musalia Mudavadi, Prime Cabinet Secretary of Kenya, His Excellency the President of the Republic of Kenya, Honorable Dr. William Samoei Ruto, to grace this occasion. Our children, guests, and the children of Kenya, Patron, Council of Elders, Captain Kungu, UNICEF Kenya representative, Mr. Jean Lokenga, UN Resident Coordinator, Dr. Stephen, County Woman, Honorable Esther Harris, CAJ Chair to Standing Committee, Lady Justice Teresia Madeka, and represented by Lady Justice Kebosia, state and non-state actors, members of the Fourth Estate, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me a great honor to welcome you to the commemoration of the United Nations World Children's Day 2022. This day provides us the
opportunity to take stock